At Carnuntum, Marcus Aurelius has brought the government of Rome to the northern frontier, and the work has followed him into the dark. When the army gives him time, he hears legal cases, allowing one speaker and then another to go through the smallest points. Some hearings continue at night. A difficult case may remain before him for 11 or 12 days, because Marcus is unwilling to hurry a judgment simply because an emperor has other things to do. An emperor always has other things to do. That is nearly the definition of the office. Welcome to Sleepy Stoicism. The water beneath us tonight was recorded at Mill Creek in New Brunswick, where it moves over stone while we remain for a while with Marcus beside the Danube. Carnuntum is no lonely tent placed in an empty field. The legionary fortress occupies high ground above the river, and around it stand the military town and the civilian settlement that have grown beside the crossing of the Danube and the Amber Road. Thousands of soldiers can be housed inside the fortified ground. There are barracks, storehouses, workshops, an administrative centre, a hospital, quarters for commanders, and gates through which horses, provisions, orders, and bad news must pass. An auxiliary fort houses cavalry nearby, and the military amphitheatre can serve for drills as well as spectacle. The river marks the edge of Roman territory, but it also carries traffic. Peace can cross it. So can an army. Carnuntum has become important because it stands where those two possibilities meet, which is a useful place for trade and a tiring place to sleep. During these years, Marcus uses Pannonia as his base. War occupies the roads beyond the fortress, yet government keeps arriving inside it. Petitioners wait to be heard. Messengers come from commanders and governors. Delegations from northern peoples bring offers, complaints, hostages, conditions, and promises that may last no longer than the walk back to the gate. Each delegation must be admitted, watched, translated, heard, answered, and sent away with terms that other people will have to enforce. Marcus listens because war does not suspend the ordinary claims people make upon power. It multiplies them. A border dispute, the status of a captive, the right to trade, the movement of a family, the price of loyalty. Each small matter joins the larger struggle, and the man responsible for the whole must still examine the parts. The frontier is dangerous, but much of command remains people waiting for an answer. The people around Marcus are working too. A secretary takes down a decision. Another prepares the Latin correspondence. An officer carries the order outward. A clerk checks a name against a list. Stable hands tend the animals that will carry the next message. Somewhere in the military hospital, other hands wash, bind, lift, and wait. The fortress is held together by work that rarely reaches a monument. Copying, counting, mending, feeding, cleaning, watching, and beginning again when the light returns. Marcus is the emperor. But an emperor cannot shoe a courier's horse, bake a legion's bread, or stand at every gate. The farther his authority reaches, the more completely it depends upon people whose faces most of history has misplaced. That dependence had become plain before Marcus settled into Carnuntum. A war in the east had moved troops and sickness across the empire. Along the Danube, communities beyond the frontier were themselves being pressed by movements farther north. Then 6,000 Langobardi and Obbia crossed the river into Roman territory. Cavalry under Vindex rode out. Infantry under Candidus came up in support. One commander could meet speed, the other brought the weight needed to finish the action. The crossing force was defeated, and envoys followed the battle, 11 men speaking for 11 peoples. They made peace under oath and returned across the frontier, but the frontier was now crowded with more peoples than one agreement could contain. That first success did not end the pressure. It showed how many hands were already upon the frontier, and how quickly one broken agreement could put another body of men on the road. The line did break. Marcomanni and Quadi passed through the Alpine approaches and entered Italy. Opertergium was destroyed. Aquileia, a Roman city behind walls in the northeast, was besieged. The roads that had carried orders and commerce carried an invading force southward and frightened people away from it. For generations, people in Italy had been able to imagine the northern wars as something conducted safely beyond the mountains, by men whose names arrived later in dispatches. Now one town had been destroyed, and another was living behind besieged walls, while enemy forces stood on Italian ground. Marcus was not beginning a campaign for a line on a map. Rome had been struck at home, but once the invaders were driven back, Roman armies crossed the Danube in turn, and defense hardened into years of counterattack, punishment, negotiation, and proposed conquest. War is seldom courteous enough to remain one clean thing. By the time Marcus works from Carnuntum, there is no single door through which the trouble can be sent away. Some northern groups ask for land, some offer soldiers, some return captives but hold back their relatives. Some promise not to shelter Rome's enemies and then do so. Marcus receives embassies in Pannonia and weighs each request differently. Horses and cattle are offered. Markets may be opened or withheld, with fixed places and days controlling who can meet and what can be bought. Captives move home in groups while others remain missing. A boy of 12 can appear at the head of an embassy and promise an alliance on behalf of his people. The whole business has the weary shape of a dispute in which every answer creates 2 more papers, except that beyond the paper are hungry settlements, armed riders, and families divided by the river. Another chieftain waits nearby demanding money and threatening war. Marcus gives this labor a seriousness that can be admirable, and if you are waiting for the decision, perhaps exhausting. He is known to spend a whole day on a point that another ruler might wave aside. He believes that carelessness in a small duty will stain the larger office. That belief does not make the workload smaller. It makes every item heavy enough to deserve his attention. Many tired people know this kind of season. The work is not always dramatic, and the reward for finishing one piece is often the arrival of the next. What makes such a shift bearable is rarely a grand reward. More often, it is competent hands nearby, a familiar face, a cup passed across a table, and the quiet relief of not carrying the entire thing alone. Marcus's body does not make the campaign easy for him. He is frail, troubled by his chest and stomach, and poorly suited to cold. On one occasion the soldiers assemble to hear him, but he cannot endure the weather long enough to address them, and has to withdraw. There is no marble composure in that retreat. The soldiers had gathered, no address was given, and the emperor went back inside because the body had made the decision first. He eats little and usually waits until night. He takes theriac for his stomach and chest. The ruler of a vast empire has doctors, servants, and stores available to him, yet he cannot order warmth into his bones by decree. Rank can alter a room. It cannot repeal a winter. Still, when war allows it, Marcus returns to the hearing. The speakers take their places again. Questions are asked, preliminary matters examined, and a case that seemed nearly finished opens another branch. He is not merely passing time until the next campaign. The hearing is part of the campaign because the state he is trying to defend must remain worth serving when the gates are shut. This is where his philosophy becomes more useful than impressive. It does not give him a body that loves cold, or a desk that empties itself. It gives him a way to approach the next person without letting the accumulation of persons turn into contempt. That may sound modest beside armies. Anyone who has worked an exhausting shift among other exhausted people knows it is not modest at all. At Carnuntum, Marcus begins the second book of the notes we now call the Meditations, by preparing for the people he will meet. The list is not flattering. He expects the meddlesome, the ungrateful, the arrogant, the deceitful, the envious, and the unsociable. It is a rather thorough morning forecast, and one suspects he did not invent every one of those categories. But he refuses the easy conclusion that difficult conduct makes another person alien to him. These people have misunderstood what is good, he tells himself, and they are still his kin in the human work. He cannot let another person's poor judgment recruit his own. The day will contain abrasive people. His task is to meet them without becoming one more. He reaches for the body to explain the arrangement. Human beings are made to work together as hands, feet, eyelids, and the upper and lower teeth work together. Teeth are an especially honest choice. They do not cooperate by gazing fondly at one another. They meet under pressure and do their work in opposite rows. At Carnuntum, the comparison is everywhere. Cavalry and infantry move differently, but must arrive at the same field. A messenger and the keeper of a gate have separate duties but share one road. The clerk who records a ration depends upon the wagon that delivered it and the hand that measures it out. A surgeon cannot replace a baker, and a baker cannot hold a wounded man still. Yet the fortress needs both before the day is done. Cooperation is not agreement in temperament. It is the joining of different work. This does not turn the military town into a brotherhood without quarrels. Men who have marched together can still resent one another over rations, promotion, money, leave, honor, or the proper way to tie something that has been tied the other way for 20 years. Officials protect their authority. Envoys conceal what they can. Marcus himself can become severe, suspicious, and angry. Fellowship on the frontier is not the discovery that everyone is easy to love. It is the recognition that the work continues through imperfect people, including oneself. The hands need not admire the feet. They do need the feet to arrive. In a hard season, that may be enough to begin with. Marcus returns to the same thought elsewhere when warmth holds him in bed. He reminds himself that he is getting up to do a human being's work. Plants, birds, ants, spiders, and bees are already occupied with what belongs to them, and he is lying beneath the covers, arguing for an exemption. Yet he does not pretend that rest is unnecessary. The note answers its own severity. Yes, one must rest. Nature has put a measure upon labour and a measure upon sleep. The question is whether rest has served the work or quietly replaced it. This is not an emperor shouting at lazy people from a dry platform. It is a man who dislikes the cold, lives with poor health, and sometimes cannot remain before his assembled soldiers, speaking firmly to the one employee he cannot dismiss. I like Marcus better with that failed address still beside the morning instruction. Without it, the passage can sound like a command to ignore the body and rise by force. With it, we can see a narrower and kinder discipline. The body reports what it can bear. Sometimes the work continues. Sometimes the emperor goes back inside. Wisdom lies partly in learning which day is which, and Marcus did not always know any better than the rest of us. He was not made of bronze, whatever Rome later put above the square. He was a sickly man trying to remain useful through a season that kept asking more than was convenient. Long before the Danube campaigns, a younger Marcus writes to his teacher Fronto from the countryside. He has slept a little longer because of a cold, and from early morning until about 9, he divides his time between reading Cato on agriculture and doing some writing of his own. The writing, he reports, went a little better than it had the day before. Then he waits upon his adoptive father, Antoninus Pius. The household is awake now. Study gives way to family duty, and family duty leads into the small religious and domestic actions of the morning. Marcus soothes his throat with honey water, but he spits it out rather than swallowing it. He jokes with Fronto about whether he ought simply to call this gargling. Then he attends Antoninus while his father offers sacrifice, and afterward they eat. Marcus has a little bread while the people around him make their way through beans, onions and sardines with much greater enthusiasm. There is nothing imperial in the menu except the number of people available to observe what everyone else is eating. A sore throat has reduced the morning to plain things: warm sweetness, bread, a father's ceremony, and the mild satisfaction of behaving sensibly while onions are being taken more seriously nearby. After breakfast, they go out for the grape harvest. Marcus works among the vines, becomes hot, shouts with the others, and enjoys himself. A few grapes remain on the highest branches when the party is done. At noon he returns and tries to work again, though the result is poor. The day has not become a lesson arranged for our benefit. It wanders as days do. Study, duty, food, outdoor labour, heat, laughter. Then an unsuccessful hour at the desk. The young man who will one day direct armies is still pleased enough to tell his teacher that he left some grapes hanging and that his afternoon work was not much good. Later, Marcus sits talking with his mother while she rests on her bed. He wonders aloud what Fronto is doing. She asks after members of Fronto's family, and the two of them dispute affectionately over which household loves the other most. A signal announces that Antoninus has crossed to the bath, so Marcus and the others bathe as well. They dine that evening in the oil press room. The room belongs to the work of the estate, and supper settles into it after the harvest. Oil, food, family voices, and tired bodies. The letter keeps all of this because Marcus is writing to someone he loves. And love is often interested in the parts of a day that an official history would remove. The honey water matters because Marcus neither worships comfort nor declares war upon it. You may remember Seneca using cold water to make his own small proclamation of independence from ease. Marcus offers a quieter companion to that exercise. He takes the warmth his throat needs, limits it, and goes on to the next part of the morning. One philosopher steps toward discomfort to learn that he can bear it. The other accepts a modest comfort without asking it to become a way of life. Both are trying to keep pleasure from becoming a master. But there is no virtue in making a sore throat lonelier than necessary. Bounded comfort is ordinary enough to be missed. A little bread, a warm drink that does not become a feast, 20 minutes of sun when the morning happens to offer it. The company of someone who understands the shift you are working because they are working it too. None of these promise permanent happiness, and that is part of their honesty. The hedonic treadmill begins when each comfort must be improved before it can be enjoyed. A larger room, a finer meal, a longer escape, another purchase waiting beyond the one just opened. The small comfort asks less of the future. It arrives, does its work, and ends. A hard season becomes bearable when its comforts are small enough to be real. Marcus learned this kind of proportion from Antoninus Pius. In the first book of the Meditations, he remembers a ruler who could enjoy what fortune supplied without fuss when it was present and without distress when it was absent. Antoninus cared for his health within reasonable limits. He returned to unfinished business after severe headaches. He listened patiently in consultations and did not abandon a difficult question, merely because the first answer sounded convenient. He could use wealth without turning luxury into proof of rank. Years later, at Carnuntum, those habits are no longer household virtues observed in a father. They have become equipment carried north. Attend carefully, accept what helps, do not require the comfort to stay, and return to the matter. Before we go back out onto the winter river, tell me where you are hearing the episode and what time it is there. I read every note. And if you'd like to find your way back here, follow the show. Think of it as leaving a lamp lit in the window for yourself. The sleep routine I use is written in the description. It is simply what I use, never a promise. Now the lamp can remain where it is. Beyond Carnuntum, the cold has made a road where the river used to be, and men on horseback are waiting upon it. The Romans have driven a force of Yazygus toward the frozen Danube. The river is no longer moving water beneath boats, but a hard exposed surface wide enough for pursuit and battle. There are no banks close enough to shelter a flank, and no ordinary earth into which a heel can bite. The Yazygus cross and then turn to face the Romans. Their horses are trained to run on ice, and the riders expect the pursuing infantry to lose balance when the charge reaches them. Some ride directly toward the Roman line, while others begin moving around the flanks. Hooves have speed. Iron-shod men on a frozen river do not. The advantage appears obvious, which is usually when soldiers begin looking very closely at the ground beneath their own feet. The Roman infantry draw together into one compact body and face outward toward the riders coming from more than one direction. The centre closes. Men at the edges turn toward the circling horsemen, so that the formation does not present an unguarded side. Many lay their shields flat upon the ice and plant one foot on the shield to gain purchase. The object normally held before the body has become a platform beneath it. A shield cannot stop a horse if the soldier falls before the animal arrives, so the men change the use of what they have. No one waits for better equipment or a more suitable battlefield. There is the ice, the charge, the man beside you, and the hard rim of the shield under 1 foot. The line holds because each soldier's balance now depends upon the same improvised answer. The horses reach them. Roman soldiers seize bridles, shields, and spear shafts, pulling the riders inward where speed becomes weight, and weight becomes difficult to control. A rider cannot simply wheel away once several men have caught the tack and weapon. Men and horses go down together. The Romans slip as well, but the battle has moved too close for elegant movement to matter. A soldier who falls backward drags his opponent over him, throws him with his legs and tries to rise first. A man who falls forward catches at whatever he can reach. Some of the soldiers use their teeth when both hands are occupied. It is a mass of bodies struggling for purchase, while the broad winter surface creaks. The Iazyges had expected the ice to fight for them. Instead, the Romans reduced the contest to the distance between one body and the next, where trained horses cannot circle, and momentum works against the rider. The lighter equipment of the Iazyges, useful for moving quickly, offers less help once they are pulled into the crush. The Roman formation keeps turning towards the threat. A shield slides, a knee strikes ice, a bridle is caught, and another mounted charge loses its shape inside the compact line. By the end, few of the opposing force escape. The immediate result is victory, though not a clean victory. This is fellowship in its least sentimental form. The soldiers do not survive because every man discovers a private fortress inside himself. They survive by forming one body, changing together, and refusing to leave open space where the riders can divide them. Each man needs the shield under his own foot, but he also needs the line at his shoulder. Stoicism can speak beautifully about the ruling mind, yet here the mind's good decision is to join more closely with other people. Independence has its hour. On the ice, separation is a gift to the horseman. After battle comes negotiation, which can be colder in its own way. Envoys ask Marcus for peace. Agreements are measured in captives, livestock, territory, markets, and distance from the river. The Quadi return some prisoners while keeping relatives behind, making it easier for the released men to be drawn back. Marcus refuses to recognize the king they have chosen, and will not renew peace merely because a large promise has been placed before him. The Iazyges eventually return 100,000 captives after many others have already been sold, died, or escaped. They also provide 8,000 mounted soldiers. 5,500 are sent far away to Britain, so men who had fought Rome beside the Danube now cross the empire to serve it at another cold frontier, A settlement moves people around like pieces on a board, but every piece has a family. Marcus is not always gentle in these dealings. At one point, he wants the Iazyges destroyed. He places a reward on Ariogaesus, offering more if the king is brought in alive and less for his severed head. The distinction does not make the notice kindly. Yet when Ariogaesus is captured, Marcus does not kill him. He sends him to Alexandria. Anger, policy, restraint, and vengeance all pass through the same man's hands during these years. It would be comforting to arrange Marcus so that philosophy always speaks first, and passion waits politely outside. He did not live that way. Neither does anyone else. The better fact is narrower. Severity did not always get the final word. The war continues through victories, broken treaties, new embassies, and new campaigns. After one victory, soldiers ask Marcus for an additional payment. He refuses, saying that anything beyond their regular amount would have to be taken from the blood of their parents and relatives. He remains in Pannonia to receive delegations. One group is granted land, another is denied access to markets, another is required to settle farther from the Danube. Some fighters become Roman allies against neighboring peoples. Captives who are fit for service are sent elsewhere. A few new settlers in Italy rebel and seize Ravenna, and Marcus reverses the policy that brought them there. No settlement solves the frontier. It changes the next problem. This is the unglamorous weight of long responsibility. A decision can be necessary, careful, and still produce trouble that returns under a different name. The same emperor who can be severe in negotiation will not buy affection from an army by quietly passing the cost to civilians. At Carnuntum, Marcus had written that human beings are fellow workers. On the frozen river, soldiers made the thought physical. In the negotiations, cooperation became less warm, but no less necessary. Translators, envoys, governors, hostages, commanders, families, and former enemies trying to make one arrangement hold. Fellowship does not mean softness toward every demand, and it does not erase the violence already done. It means that even after violence, the next livable day must be built with other people. No emperor can command a lasting peace by himself. No treaty can carry its own terms back to every village. Later, among the Quadi at the Granua, Marcus sets down what he owes to the people whose hands had formed him. He begins with family. From his grandfather he learned gentleness and calm. From the memory of his father, modesty and steadiness. From his mother, generosity, restraint, and a way of living simply despite great wealth. She taught him not only to avoid doing harm, but to resist entertaining the intention of it. He thanks the great-grandfather who paid for good teachers, the tutor who taught endurance and independence, and Diognetus, who led him toward philosophy and its plain bed and animal skins. This is not an emperor presenting himself as self-made. It is a man placing name after name beneath the life he has been praised for living. Rusticus receives a substantial share of the thanks. He taught Marcus to distrust showy speeches about virtue, to give up ornamental language, to write letters plainly, to read carefully, and not to accept a shallow understanding merely because it arrived first. He also taught readiness to reconcile as soon as an offended person was prepared to return. Rusticus gave Marcus a copy of the discourses of Epictetus. The relationship was not frictionless. Marcus admits that he was often displeased with Rusticus, though he never acted against him in a way he later regretted. That small admission keeps both men alive. A useful teacher is not always comfortable company. Sometimes the person who helps repair your life is also the person most capable of making you wish, for 10 minutes, that your life required no repair at all. From Apollonius, Marcus remembers steadiness through pain, illness, and the loss of a child. He also remembers a teacher who could be forceful without being harsh towards slower students, and who received favours without becoming either indebted in judgment or cold in gratitude. From Sextus came another kind of strength. A household governed with fatherly affection, seriousness without performance, patience with people who did not understand, and learning carried so lightly that company remained pleasant. Sextus could be free of anger without becoming chilly, tender-hearted without making a show of tenderness, and respected without collecting noise around himself. These are not solitary virtues. Marcus noticed how a man taught, how he accepted help, how he behaved with family, and what happened to the people around him when he entered a room. Alexander the grammarian showed him how to correct a person's language without humiliating the speaker. Instead of announcing the error, Alexander would answer using the word properly and let the correction pass quietly into the conversation. Another Alexander taught Marcus not to claim urgent business as a regular excuse for neglecting friends. That lesson must have become inconvenient once Marcus was emperor, because urgent business had by then acquired armies, court cases, roads, and seals. For an emperor especially, that lesson remained awkward in daily practice too. Yet the duty remained. A crowded schedule can explain an absence. If used often enough, it can also become a very respectable hiding place. Then Marcus stays for a long time with Antoninus Pius. He remembers a ruler who listened patiently, examined matters closely, kept track of public expense, returned to work after headaches, and neither chased novelty nor made a display of old customs. Antoninus could enjoy comfort when it was available, and manage without it when it was not. He did not require friends to attend every meal or follow every journey. He respected people who knew more than he did and made room for them to use that knowledge. Authority, in Marcus's memory, is not loud. It is the discipline of giving another person enough time to finish an answer, and then doing the necessary work after the room has emptied. The gratitude continues through teachers, relatives, friends, household members, and the people entrusted with his children. Marcus thanks the gods that money was available when someone needed help, that he had capable teachers, that he knew Rusticus, Apollonius, and Maximus, and that his family remained near him for as long as it did. The list gathers simple diet, plain letters, patient listening, affection, correction, headaches, friendship, and unfinished business. His inward refuge was not built in solitude. It was formed from habits he had watched in other people, and tried, imperfectly, to keep. That is why fellowship belongs at the centre of this hard northern phase. The comfort is not that Marcus escapes command. or finally reaches a place where nobody needs him. The comfort is that he did not arrive alone. When his own patience thins, he can remember Antoninus listening. When pride grows warm, Rusticus is still there in the plain letter. When another person speaks badly, Alexander offers the gentler correction. When pain narrows the room, Apollonius has already shown steadiness without becoming stone. Gratitude does not remove the burden. It lets the burden be shared across time. In the years after the northern campaigns, Rome raises a column for the war. Marble is quarried at Luna, shaped into enormous drums, hollowed for the stair within, transported south, and lifted into place. Each drum has to meet the next closely enough for a staircase to continue through the centre. Narrow openings must bring light into that stair without weakening the shaft. Stone must be aligned with stone, while the column rises above the Campus Martius. Workshops, ramps, ropes, carts, measuring tools, scaffolds, and skilled hands gather around the site. The emperor, whose notes thanked teachers and family, is being turned into public memory by labourers whose own names will not spiral around the finished monument. The honour takes an immense amount of ordinary physical work. Once the great shaft is assembled, the war is cut into its surface. The relief winds upward in a long band, troops marching, rivers crossed, forts built, councils held, captives taken, villages destroyed, horses falling, prisoners pleading, and Marcus appearing again and again among soldiers and standards. Carvers work around a curve, while keeping one long account legible as it climbs. Figures higher on the shaft must still be understood by people far below. The cutting grows deep, and bodies lean forward from the marble, so light and shadow can separate them. A fold of cloth, a shield rim, a beard, a hand the side of a frightened animal. Each must be struck from stone by a person balanced above the square. The finished column makes one emperor visible from a distance. Up close, it is thousands upon thousands of decisions made by hands. The column does not turn the war gentle. Its villages burn. Bound prisoners stand beneath Roman authority. Families move through scenes of defeat, and soldiers carry the machinery of invasion beyond the river that Rome had defended. This is why the monument fits Marcus better than a clean statue would. It holds duty, endurance, protection, conquest, mercy, anger, fellowship, and cruelty on one continuous surface. The spiral keeps rising, but the scenes do not become morally lighter as they climb. Marcus could labour toward justice and still command a violent empire. That contradiction remains visible in the stone. And yet the labour behind the stone brings us back to the smaller comfort Marcus understood. No one carries the whole column. No one holds the whole frontier. The work is divided among people who lift, measure, copy, listen, bind wounds, bake bread, hold a line on ice, correct a word gently, or remain beside one another through the last hour of a shift. Tonight, whatever responsibility has followed you into bed does not need to become small before you may rest. It only needs to stop pretending that you must carry every part of it at once. Keep the part that is yours. Remember the hands that have already held the rest. Now the weight of the day can begin to settle. Nothing has to be thrown away, and nothing must be solved before the room grows quiet. Let the bed receive the backs of your heels and the weight of your calves. The legs that carried you through the day have arrived at a surface that can carry them. There is no next road beneath the blankets. The knees can loosen, the thighs can grow heavy, and the hips can rest without preparing to rise. The water at Mill Creek continues over the stone, but your body does not need to follow it anywhere. Let the settling reach the lower back and move gently upward. The muscles along the spine have held you upright, leaned you toward work, and pulled you away again. They may stop reporting for a while. The stomach can soften without being asked to feel perfect. The chest can rise in the ordinary way and fall without instruction. Each breath is small enough to finish. The next one will come when it comes. Responsibility has spent the day borrowing the body, as if the body were an endless account. For now, the account is closed. Weight spreads into the mattress, and the mattress keeps it. The hands may settle next. Fingers uncurl from tools, keys, steering wheels, cups, phones, railings, and all the little edges by which a day is held together. The forearms grow quiet. The elbows need not brace. Let the shoulders drop by the amount they are willing to drop, no more. Then the throat can rest from speech and withheld speech alike. The jaw loosens. The tongue lies still. The small muscles around the eyes no longer need to read the room. The forehead smooths by itself, or it does not. Either way, the work is over for now. The day settles through you as silt settles beneath clear water. What belongs to morning will still be there when morning has the strength to meet it. What was never yours may remain below, harmless for the night. You do not need to sort every grain. Simply feel the body becoming heavier than the thought that tried to carry it. A breath floats near the surface, then another. Beneath them, the bed remains steady. The world outside continues with its roads, rivers, offices, hospitals, gates, and night shifts. Other hands are holding it now. The feet are quiet. The legs are quiet. The hands have opened. The shoulders have come down. The jaw is loose, and the eyes have nothing left to guard. The difficult person can wait beyond the gate. The unfinished case can remain on the table. The road may continue without you. The river may continue without you. A little warmth is enough. A little darkness is enough. This breath is enough for this moment. The weight settles. The room settles. The water goes on. No whole frontier tonight, no whole empire, no whole tomorrow. Only the place where your body meets the bed, only the small rise and fall of breath, only the sound moving over stone. The people who helped you are still part of what you know. The people working now may carry what belongs to them. Your hands are empty. Your part of the watch is finished. The last thought can sink without an answer. The last light can grow dim without being put out. The weight settles. The room settles. The water goes on. The feet are quiet. The legs are quiet. The hands have opened. The shoulders have come down. The jaw is loose, and the eyes have nothing left to guard. The difficult person can wait beyond the gate. The unfinished case can remain on the table. The road may continue without you. The river may continue without you. A little warmth is enough. A little darkness is enough. This breath is enough for this moment. The weight settles. The room settles. The water goes on. no whole frontier tonight, no whole empire, no whole tomorrow. Only the place where your body meets the bed, only the small rise and fall of breath, only the sound moving over stone. The people who helped you are still part of what you know. The people working now may carry what belongs to them. Your hands are empty. Your part of the watch is finished. The last thought can sink without an answer. The last light can grow dim without being put out. The weight settles. The room settles. The water goes on. Good night, Drifter. The work can wait beyond the gate, and the water will keep moving through the dark.